For the morning pages that my writings have started developing out of, it's really from just waking up in the morning and in your first 45 minutes doing a stream of consciousness writing, where you don't censor what's coming up or out and you just kind of let it flow. Yet when I come into connection with you on Patreon, there is part of me that feels like I'd like to introduce a little bit of how I listen to myself when I'm writing, pathways that I've seen come up that have been helpful, little like almost subconscious now choices I make while in the journaling process that you may find are insightful, or you might find that like, oh yeah, I've noticed I do that too. One of the things that I have found sometimes is, and we'll go with the resistance today, since I have a resistance to showing up here. Sometimes when I show up into my pages, I'll find like I hit like a wall or a block or like something that it feels like I freeze almost like I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't necessarily have any thoughts. I'm not always sure what to do about that. And sometimes it will come out of, I write something that feels vulnerable for me, and then it's like I freeze and I stop. And so my sense is that when I speak or say or write something vulnerable and then I go into that fear mode, there's a nervous system dysregulation that kind of happens where I go, oh, threat of death, because of how we're built as animals. And because of how society works, oftentimes vulnerability is not met with reward. And so I'm trying to help myself learn new patterns, new tools, find new connections, ways of being in community with you, with others that that feels like I can share authentically or share vulnerably, and then I don't the sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop is something I can not do anymore, at least not with the intensity or the way that I used to, where I feel totally frozen. So I find that in my pages, I have almost like a little mini version of that happens between me and myself. Even if I'm not sharing the pages with anyone, even if they stay completely private, I'll still notice that happens with me and me. So one of the ways that helps me with that is I learned this from a journaling method, and I don't remember what it's called now, and I've tried to search it and I can't find it. So this isn't my original thought, but when you get to one of those moments, you can look back on what you just wrote and note. I've noted, and this tends to be consistent, that sometimes what you just wrote, you're not entirely sure what you meant by it. Or even if you do, it can help you continue to move forward if you feel like you're in a freeze, where you just start the next sentence with what I meant by that was, and then you just fill in the blank. You can either use, like, if there's a specific word that you're like, oh, I'd like to unpack that word a little bit, or that word's nice, I'd like to find more ways of saying that in different ways, or that word's uncomfortable and I wonder if I could phrase that in a different way that doesn't bring up quite so much discomfort. Or maybe what I meant by that was I'm really uncomfortable. And then you can just kind of talk about your discomfort. What I meant by that was my discomfort is hard for me to be with, right? What I meant by that is I have a way of avoiding my fears. So you can use that little prompt. What I meant by that was, and then continue and just do that once and then move on if that opens something, or you can keep doing it until you feel like you've kind of moved through something. So I want to just, super simple invitation today with the time that we're going to write together is to, if you find yourself sticking or stuck or befuddled by what you wrote, or curious about something that you expressed, to just allow yourself to repeatedly use the form of repetition, to return to that phrase. What I meant by that was, and then filling in the blank. Yeah. So